We are dyeing rusty white. We're gonna okay, like that? Can you hear me? Okay, all right. And we're pretty new to Ely. We're gonna do a little picture show because we don't want to just like talking in front of a group. So we're gonna put the pictures up on the screen and try to talk about what's going on. We are both retired educators. I'm a retired educator from Lincoln Public Schools. I worked mostly with middle school students, started out in English, moved over to computers, and ended up in video making. So, but the picture up here is of me as a bicyclist. When I describe myself to new people, I usually say I'm an avid cyclist and enjoy bicycling. Tour de Nebraska is a 5-day ride throughout Nebraska that Rusty and I have done many times. And in fact, we met 15 years ago, I believe, on Tour de Nebraska. Here's a picture of us getting going on one of our rides. We also did Rad Ride, which is the oldest and largest bike tour. We've done that many times. And something crazy always happens. Here we are out with Sasquatch on one of our bike tours. And if you've ever been to Nebraska on Interstate 80, you probably think it's flat, but it is not, especially from a bicycle seat. But you have to get off of I-80. You can't stay on I-80.
At least you get that water in.
In fact, sometimes you have to push your bike up the hill. It's so annoying. But there's always good pie at all the various stops. Usually church lady pie is what we call it. They feed us well on these trips. And at the end of the trip, you get to find your bag, which has been sagged for you. So you get to pick out of about 400 bags, which one yours is, and set up your tent, get ready for the evening. I absolutely love Nebraska. This picture was taken on the 4th of July. The old adage goes that the corn should be knee-high by the 4th of July, but you can see it's a lot taller, and it's also a great bathroom stop when you're on a bicycle. My Saturday mornings usually begin just like this. I meet up with a bunch of bicyclists and off we go. So I'm really anxious to meet other cyclists in the city of Ely. Lincoln has 132 miles of paved bicycle trails within the city. And then as you can see here, we also have limestone trails, another couple hundred that go out around the city. They're mostly all rails to trails. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Rails to trails conversions. This is my 96-year-old mother standing in front of the state capitol of Lincoln. And if anyone ever goes to Nebraska, I highly encourage you to take a visit at the capitol. It is really a beautiful building inside and out. This picture was taken out in the Sandhill area of Nebraska. And perhaps some of you have heard in the news about the Ogallala Aquifer and the Keystone Pipeline and all the controversy that went through there. I know the Boundary Waters has its own issues, but for Nebraskans, this was a big one, trying to stop that oil from coming through, because as you can see, the water just bubbles up out there. And if it were all contaminated by oil, it would severely impact Nebraska and the surrounding states. I love the prairie, and when Rusty and I met, I said, you will never take me away from the prairie. I love the prairie. In fact, when we met, having spent my entire life in the state of Nebraska, I did not even know what the Boundary Waters happened to be. I never heard of it before. So anyway, here's a couple prairie pictures. These are right outside of Lincoln. Look at that big, wide landscape. And in fact, this particular picture, we built our own home about 10 years ago. And this particular picture is taken right outside our kitchen window. So it's prairie everywhere you look.
I'm also an avid gardener, and this is a picture taken from my garden. It's really early in the spring, so you can't really see much growing there. But I set that path down through my garden. And this is a panel picture of my garden. It's about 75 feet wide and about 35 feet deep. So it's a big space. I grow lots of flowers. And this is my zinnia patch. And in fact, I brought my zinnia seeds up here, which I harvest every year. And I'm looking for some dirt to put them in. I'm hoping I'll find some. This is an example of just one day's harvest in my garden.
You better get the why you came to Minnesota.
And the other thing I really like to do is bake pies. Unfortunately, one pie is too much for the two of us, so I haven't done a lot of it lately, but whenever I get a chance to share, I'll make a pie.
Hi, I'm Rusty White. I am a retired music teacher with a bright light in his eyes. I'm a native of Kentucky. I spent the last 40 years in Nebraska teaching 30 of those years at the University of Nebraska in the music department. Before that, I taught at Morehead State University in Kentucky. And before that, I was either in school or a professional musician or both until I got a good day job. Yes, sir? Okay. Let's see. Did I say what I meant to say about this? Yeah. Okay. This is a picture of a church which kind of takes me back to my earliest memories of childhood. I come from a family of ministers, father, grandfather, uncle, and cousin. And this particular church in this town was where I lived from ages of 4 through 7. A town of about 900, very small hardscrabble farms in west central Kentucky. I mention this here not to say anything about religion, but because that community and that time in my life was when I first started to discover that I couldn't stay inside. I needed to be outside. I needed to play in the trees or around the farm animals, or wading in the creeks or catching animals and trapping them. So the outdoors was a lure for me from that time forward in my life. The Boy Scout thing. I wrote this down because I think I'll share the information better that way. In 1960, at age 12, I was one of 5 or 6 boys who became charter members of a new Boy Scout troop. At the very first meeting, the Scoutmaster explained that in 3 years, we would go from our homes in Lexington, Kentucky to Alaska. This was about the time that JFK proposed that the U.S. put a man on the moon, so why not? The troop soon embarked on making our own tents on the Scoutmaster's treadle sewing machine and camping in the Kentucky woods during any break from school. Thanksgiving and Christmas were favorites. By the way, back then in Kentucky, it got cold in the winter. On some of these trips, we took livestock, a pig one Christmas, several turkeys on Thanksgiving, into the woods where we butchered them and cooked them as entrees in the outdoor feasts cooked over an open fire. On one particular occasion, we hiked 40 miles in one day and slept overnight at the state park, which was our destination. The point of all this is to say that my Boy Scout experience was different than most. And yes, in 1963, we went to Alaska, traveling for 80 days, camping all the way, sleeping on the ground, cooking all our meals, the whole enchilada. Our route took us from Kentucky to the East Coast, to DC, New York City, and to Niagara, where we crossed into Canada. We proceeded west across Canada, where we hooked up the Alcan Highway. We traveled that dirt and gravel road north to Alaska, seeing Anchorage, Fairbanks, and Denali, among others. Back south on the Alcan through British Columbia, down the west coast of the U.S., visiting Tijuana for an afternoon. Across the southwest, with a day spent hiking the 26 miles into and out of the Grand Canyon, and ultimately back to Kentucky in the nick of time for school. By the fall of 1963, camping was second nature for me, and I would just as soon sleep on the ground as in a bed.
If you don't get the Minnesota Ely suit, I'm gonna shut you down.
I like this. I like this.
Okay, these are pictures from my career and being a musician. Now, you changed the tune on us now. So, full disclosure here. I taught at the University of Nebraska. Keep going with the pictures. Okay, I'm a musician. I play clarinet in a concert band. That's a bass clarinet. There I am playing clarinet with a jazz group.
Ooh.
Maybe we should move faster. Here I am doing woodworking, traditional tools, making canoes and tables and fishing lures. And the fishing lures catch fish. Here I am painting, I also paint.
Wow.
Something I went back to a couple years ago when I had shoulder surgery. You can paint with just one hand. You don't need two hands. I cook. What's that stuff I cook there? Gumbo, thank you. There's a bow detail from the last canoe we built. Cedar strip. It floats. Want to skip all the way to Ely, skip all the boundary waters. You folks know about the boundary waters, right? Okay, this is a cabin we bought in July of 2020. We weren't expecting to buy anything, but we knew as we age, our time of sleeping on the ground, the boundary waters would come to a close. So we happened upon this dry cabin on White Iron Lake. We bought it. We didn't expect to move in, but keep turning those pictures fast. I don't want to have to shoot Elton. And we had a couple of buildings built. This is Guy's sauna.
Built by Mark Olson.
Built by Mark Olson, who does a wonderful job. That's my workshop. Keep going. This is the chandelier in the outhouse.
Wow.
Has a composting toilet and a tile floor and a Picasso print. We are uppity folks.
Yeah.
Pictures from the cabin, dog Gretchen. Down on the shore of White Iron Lake. She's not a sled dog, she's a Doberman. More pictures from the cabin, keep them live and die. Last summer's parade, 4th of July, what it looks like driving into our cabin.
That's us.
Moving day, yeah, December 7th.
How did you persuade Di to want to move to the Boundary Waters?
Oh, we took the trip. I was like,
Well, the first trip she was hooked, and after 30 trips, we've been doing trips a year. We had to quit our jobs so we could come up here more often. And in the winter, we took Sherky trips. Ron Brodigan's not here today, but we stayed in his place.
I don't know how to disconnect.
So that's it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So this is Grayson Scoggin and Rosa, Osterreich. Yeah. And Sal and Loretta. Welcome them to you.
We're probably gonna be pretty brief here, but let's see, we moved up here last May. We bought a place, used to be run by an organization called Wilderness Wind. They were a nonprofit outfitter from Chicago. So we got a bunch of buildings that I spend most of my time, if I'm not busy with kiddos, working on those, fixing them up and stuff like that. Currently, there's an addition on the back of an old dovetail barn that I'm converting into an office studio for Rosa. Yeah, I ran a sort of little small handyman and light construction remodeling business in Minneapolis for quite a while before we moved up here. I'll probably get back into that sort of thing around here eventually. Sal, you want to say anything?
Okay. Got any jokes?
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Rosa Osterreich. Hello. I'm from kind of north central Minnesota originally. Lived outside of Minnesota in the States for some years. And we moved back to Minneapolis about 7 years ago. I've been coming up to the Boundary Waters since I was a kid, and that was something that Grayson did with a large group friend group of his and mine, and, yeah, we love this area. I came out here when I was 30, or pregnant with Sal. We went to Boundary Waters, and Sal was a year and a half, and kind of always, we liked for having the idea of moving here, and I am a certified professional midwife, a licensed midwife. I have a home birth practice. I have, yeah, I worked I've worked at birth centers and that birth at home practice. And I'm really happy to bring that up here. And we were excited about our kids living in the woods, and we're just feel really happy to be here and grateful to be here. And Sal really liked learning to skate this winter, took a learn to skate class, and Loretta discovered the joys of sledding this winter.
She's also very into birdies right now, so seeing that big birdie over the lake.
Yeah, we're really happy to be here and
Nice.
Thanks for having us. Four and 1.5.
Cool. Yeah. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I walked into the toboggan shop the other day and met the person who holds it down. That's Jerry Eakins.
Thank you. I wrote down a few notes just to help keep me organized and on time. You're gonna give me the 2-minute warning, right? Yeah. Okay, so how I got here. So I'm from Excelsior, Minnesota, and my family has been in Excelsior since the 1890s. So we're very, very much integrated in that area. 4 generations of my family went to Minnetonka, and I developed some really, really good friendships with my fellow classmates, 4 of whom actually, well, 4 with me actually live here in Ely. They're kind of what brought me up here. I decided, so in 2017, I was getting a little anxious and kind of a little antsy. You know, living in Excelsior and walking down the street, and everyone was always like, oh, I just saw your mom, and oh, your aunt says hi, and blah, 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 blah. You know, so it was like, I didn't really have my own community, so I decided to kind of minimize my life. I sold about 90% of everything I owned, moved out of a house, and decided that I was going to Airbnb in Minneapolis to see and test new neighborhoods in the area. And 1 month turned into 14 months. So I've Airbnb'd in 33 different areas in Minneapolis, testing different neighborhoods, fell in love with so many of them. But actually what I fell in love with is kind of like living a nomadic life. So I decided to buy a 2017 ProMaster high top van, which was a completely empty cargo van, and I turned it into a tiny house on wheels. And I did most of the build on my own, including the solar, which it has 3 solar panels on top, fans, a full-size bed, a full-size, kitchen, a sitting area, and everything else. And I was asked to bring a show and tell, so I brought my van. So if anyone is interested in doing a tiny house tour, it's outside, it's a little too big to bring in, so I'm more than happy to share that. And I'm always more than happy to share that experience with people, whether you want to tour privately or you want to talk about something that you want to convert on your own, because I got a lot of skills. I lived in that for 2 years while working a corporate job. I worked for One Food Holding, Lunds and Byerly's, where I was a product developer and ran a gift shop. But I kept coming up here, spending time up here, and I would like take any vacation time and I drive up here, you know, straight after work on a Friday. I'd spend all my time here, and then I would drive my van to Black Bear Casino and park there overnight, and then wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning and drive to work my Monday shift. And you know, COVID kind of did limit my ability to be able to travel the way I really wanted to travel on the van, but it's the lifestyle that I really enjoy. So what I do now is I work for Wintergreen Northern Wear. Totally repping today. Couple tops on. And I also work for Northern Toboggan, and I've taken a bigger role in Northern Toboggan, you know, and working in the retail shop as well as beginning to wholesale some of their products to our Canadian partners. So that's been really interesting. But I also, on my own, I've been a copywriter for decades, writing packaging copy and helping businesses develop copy and helping businesses develop products. So I really do enjoy that too. So if there's anyone here who's in business who needs, you know, just a little, you know, little fine tuning or a second pair of eyes, I'm more than willing to, you know, share my knowledge. What I love about this is I come from a very, very deeply rooted community area. I also want to extend that to here. Some of the things I'm interested in is gardening, but I like to garden personally, but I just see that there might be just a need for, you know, fresh produce for those who, you know, are going through challenging times and need, you know, whole foods and whatnot. So that it feels important to me, especially right now when things might become more difficult as the time goes on. But to act like a community and pull together and make sure everyone is, you know, in a safe space and eating healthy and whatnot. So that's super important. Yeah, I think that's it. How am I doing?
Great.
Live in your van now.
I do not. Actually, one of my high school friends, we bought a house on Patterson. Yeah, so we're actually, you know, on Patterson, so my van is parked in the back, and sometimes when I'm really irritated with my housemate, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go to my house. See ya. So, yeah, so.
Awesome.
Where is the toboggan shop?
So the toboggan shop is adjacent to Wintergreen Northern Wear and is in the old canoe cabin realty. Yeah, and in that space, you know, we are going to be closing the shop down for, you know, regular business hours on day to day, but we will be open throughout the summer. And we encourage people to stop in to get information, to look at the products we have, and just to share where you like to adventure so we can share that with others.
If I remember from the article, whatever, they're all handmade.
You know what, Wintergreen, Northern Toboggan purchased Wintergreen Northern Wear, and they both share the same philosophy. Yeah, same philosophy of, you know, goods that come through the back door. So unfinished goods that come through the back door and finished goods that go out the front door. So Wintergreen was established in '86 and Northern Toboggan was established in '85. So I call them Irish twins. So, yeah.
About how you're providing toboggans to natives.
Yeah, so the company began out of a need for First Nations people to have handcrafted toboggans that are traditional toboggans for them to maintain their livelihood. So it was a call that was answered by the Heron family, and they've continued on that tradition. And I am beginning to develop some, you know, good relationships with those people and try to learn and understand what their needs are so we can make sure that we're continuing to meet that need. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. So here comes Jamie Gadberry. All the way from Texas. depending, Rusty, depending how long we go here, maybe we'll see the rest of your slides.
You might have burnt that bridge out, Tim.
Hi, I'm Jamie Cadbury, and I moved to Ely fairly recently. I moved here in August, and it came about because I have a girlfriend who moved here about a year ago last December. And when she moved here, I said, I love you, but I'm not going to come visit you until the snow melts, and I'll see you in the summer. And so summer rolled around, and I came to visit her, and I just fell in love with Ely. And I came back a couple times in the summer, last summer, and my friend had, she moved here because she had met someone online. He was from Minnesota, and she was from South Texas. And so it was kind of a different kind of a culture shock for her. But so she moved up, and she was remodeling her house and had an apartment upstairs. She said, why don't you just come up and try it out and just see if you like it? And so I thought for about, a day, and I thought, why not? And so I actually put everything I owned in storage, and my Great Dane and I packed everything we had in my car, and we came up in August and said, well, let's try Ely. And I absolutely loved it. And I didn't realize until I moved here how much I was drawn to the forest and the trees and the water. And living in Texas, there's not a lot of that. It's not something that you really need or desire or anything like that. But once I moved here, I just felt it was such a healing place. And I was so drawn to it every day. I would take my dog out, and I just wanted to be in the woods every day and hiking. And so my intention was to let me just stay through the summer. And then I said, well, maybe I'll just stay through fall. It's so pretty. And then winter came, I had to make a big decision. And so I said, I'm not ready to leave. And so I decided to stay. So I stayed through the winter, and I'm about to survive my first winter in Ely. So it's a big accomplishment.
Yes, it is.
Frankly. But I still love it here. I always find, even in the snowiest of days, I still find something beautiful about Ely. And so I love the area, and I really don't have any plans to leave anytime soon. So I did have to go back and bring some of my things with me. But yeah. So I was living in Texas before I moved here, and earlier in my life, I worked for a healthcare corporation, and I moved around a lot for them, and they would acquire new hospitals, and I moved, and so I did that for about 20 years, and decided I wanted to get out of that business, and so I became a personal stylist, and I did that when I was living in Dallas, and I really loved that, because it was more than just picking out clothes for people. It was there's something very vulnerable about being with people in their closets, where they were vulnerable about what their body image and their self-esteem, and so we had a lot of honest conversations, and that was what I enjoyed most about it, was getting to know people, encouraging them, which kind of led me to being interested in being a life coach, and it seemed like a natural transition. And so I went from that to being a life coach. And so now I'm a lifestyle coach. And it's nice that I can do that from anywhere. And so I kind of help people who, for any number of reasons, but for maybe for someone who's like in a rut in their life, they want to make some changes, or they're just tired of living the same day every day, or maybe they're wanting to change something in their diet or their self-care program, or anything really. They want to help setting goals in life or whatever. And so I just guide them and encourage them on their journey to make some changes. So that's what I do. And I really enjoy it. I love being a part of people's lives and helping them as they make some changes. And for the better. So, I have one son, he lives in Oklahoma City, and, that was the only downfall about being so far away from him. But he's come to visit, and I've been down there, and so we still see each other a lot. He's a photographer, and one of the things he does on the side is he's a storm chaser. And he does storm photography, which takes beautiful pictures. But when tornadoes are coming, he goes towards the tornado, where I go away from them, I'm under underground. But he's very talented, and I'm very proud of him. But anyway, I thought it was beautiful, and I loved taking a walk right after the snow in the quiet and stillness. I just thought that was, just being in the woods in the stillness and the quietness of the snow. I thought it was beautiful, but it was just so still and quiet. I really love that part of it. As soon as you're the only one out there, which is nice. So in the summer, it's so crowded. In the winter, there's not as many people out, which is the stillness I love.
I also want to know if you found anybody Ely with style.
Everyone has their own version.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome. Thank you.
thank you.